Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books on the eve of the special day, Radhastami, here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, next to the English Channel here in southeast England. We hope all of you are well and safe and happy reading Srila Prabhupada's books together. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will never get tired of hearing this beautiful, poetic glorification, his glorification of the Caitanya-caritämrta. He said, in due course, Mahäprabhu, devastating floods will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, for if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna. So, we've reached the Madhya-lila chapter 9. Sri Chaitanya Mahäprabhu is touring South India, meeting all kinds of people, preaching, making the whole country Krishna conscious by his transcendental effulgence. Now he's come to a part of South India where there are a Buddhist cult. We're taking up the chapter at text 49. The scriptures of the Buddhist cult are chiefly based on argument and logic, and they contain 9 chief principles. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahäprabhu defeated the Buddhists in their argument, they could not establish their cult. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that according to the Buddhist cult, there are 2 ways of understanding philosophy. One is called Hinayana, and the other is called Mahayana. Mahayana. So Hinayana and Mahayana. Along the Buddhist path, there are 9 principles. 1. The creation is eternal. Therefore, there is no need to accept a creator. 2. This cosmic manifestation is false. 3. I am is the truth. 4. There is a repetition of birth and death. 5. Lord Buddha is the only source of understanding the truth. 6. The principle of nirvana, or annihilation, is the ultimate goal. 7. The philosophy of Buddha is the only philosophical path. 8. The Vedas are compiled by human beings. 9. Pious activities showing mercy to others and so on are advised. No one can attain the absolute truth by argument. One may be very expert in logic, and another person may be even more expert in the art of argument. Because there is so much word jugglery in logic, one can never come to the real conclusion about the absolute truth by argument. The followers of the Vedic principles understand this. However, it is seen here that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu defeated the Buddhist philosophy by argument. Those who are preachers in ISKCON will certainly meet many people who believe in intellectual arguments. Most of these people do not believe in the authority of the Vedas. Nevertheless, they accept intellectual speculation and argument. Therefore, the preachers of Krishna consciousness should be prepared to defeat others by argument, just as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu did. In this verse, it is clearly said, Tarke Kandila Prabhu. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put forward such a strong argument that the Buddhists could not counter him to establish their cult. The first principle is that the creation has always existed. But if this were the case, there could be no theory of annihilation. The Buddhists maintain that annihilation or dissolution is the highest truth. If the creation eternally exists, there is no question of dissolution or annihilation. This argument is not very strong, because by practical experience, we can see that material things have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The ultimate aim of the Buddhist philosophy is to dissolve the body. This is proposed because the body has a beginning. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation is a gigantic body, but if we accept that it always exists, there can be no question of annihilation. Therefore, the attempt to annihilate everything in order to attain zero is an absurdity. By our own practical experience, we have to accept the beginning of creation, and then when we accept the beginning, we must accept a creator. Such a creator must possess an all-pervasive body, as pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita 13:14. Sarvatak panipadam tat, sarvato chit chido mukham, sarvatak shutima loke, sarvam avrityatishthati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. The Supreme Person must be present everywhere. His body existed before the creation. Otherwise, he could not be the creator. If the Supreme Person is a created being, there can be no question of a creator. The conclusion is that the cosmic manifestation is certainly created at a certain time, and the creator existed before the creation. Therefore, the creator is not a created being. The creator is Parabrahman, or the Supreme Spirit. Matter is not only subordinate to spirit, but is actually created on the basis of spirit. When the spirit soul enters the womb of a mother, the body is created by material ingredients supplied by the mother. Everything is created in the material world, and consequently, there must be a creator who is the Supreme Spirit and who is distinct from matter. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the material energy is inferior and that the spiritual energy is the living entity. Both inferior and superior energies belong to the Supreme Person. The Buddhists argue that the world is false, but this is not valid. The world is temporary, but it is not false. As long as we have the body, excuse me, as long as we have the body, we must experience the pleasures and pains of the body. even though we are not the body. We may not take these pleasures and pains very seriously, but they are factual nonetheless. We cannot actually say that they are false. If the bodily pains and pleasures were false, the creation would be false also, and consequently, no one would take very much interest in it. The conclusion is that the material creation is not false or imaginary, but it is temporary. The Buddhists maintain that the principle I am is the ultimate truth, but this excludes the individuality of I and you. If there is no I and you, or individuality, there is no possibility of argument. The Buddhist philosophy depends on argument, but there can be no argument if one simply depends on I am. There must be a you, or another person also. The philosophy of duality, the existence of the individual soul and the supersoul, must be there. This is confirmed in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita 2.12, wherein the Lord says, Na tvevaham jatu na sang, na tvang nemi janatipaha, na chaiva na bhavishama sarve vayam atak param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. We existed in the past in different bodies, and after the annihilation of this body, we shall exist in another body. The principle of the soul is eternal, and it exists in this body or in another body. Even in this lifetime, we experience existence in a child's body, a youth's body, a man's body, and an old body. After the annihilation of the body, we acquire another body. The Buddhist cult also accepts the philosophy of transmigration, but the Buddhists do not properly explain the next birth. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and our next birth may be in any one of them. Therefore, this human body is not guaranteed. According to the Buddhists' fifth principle, Lord Buddha is the only source for the attainment of knowledge. We cannot accept this, for Lord Buddha rejected the principles of Vedic knowledge. One must accept a principle of standard knowledge because one cannot attain the absolute truth simply by intellectual speculation. If everyone is an authority, or if everyone accepts his own intelligence as the ultimate criterion, as is presently fashionable, the scriptures will be interpreted in many different ways, and everyone will claim that his own philosophy is supreme. This has become a very great problem, and everyone is interpreting scripture in his own way and setting up his own basis of authority. Yatamat tatapat. Now everybody and anybody is trying to establish his own theory as the ultimate truth. The Buddhists theorize that annihilation or nirvana is the ultimate goal. Annihilation applies to the body, but the spirit soul transmigrates from one body to another. If this were not the case, how can so many multifarious bodies come into existence? If the next birth is a fact, the next bodily form is also a fact. As soon as we accept a material body, we must accept the fact as soon as we accept a material body, we must accept the fact that that body will be annihilated and that we will have to accept another body. If all material bodies are doomed to annihilation, we must obtain a non-material body or a spiritual body if we wished the next birth to be anything but false. How the spiritual body is attained is explained by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam Evang yo veti tatpataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naitimam eti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the highest perfection, to give up one's material body and not accept another, but to return home, back to Godhead. It is not that perfection means one's existence becomes void or zero. Existence continues, but if we positively want to annihilate the material body, we have to accept a spiritual body. Otherwise, there can be no eternality for the soul. We cannot accept the theory that the Buddhist philosophy is the only way, for there are so many defects in that philosophy. A perfect philosophy is one that has no defects, and that is Vedanta philosophy. No one can point out any defects in Vedanta philosophy, and therefore we can conclude that Vedanta is the supreme philosophical way of understanding the truth. According to the Buddhist cult, the Vedas are compiled by ordinary human beings. If this were the case, they would not be authoritative. From the Vedic literatures, we understand that shortly after the creation, Lord Brahma was instructed in the Vedas. It is not that the Vedas were created by Brahma, although Brahma is the original person in the universe. If Brahma did not create the Vedas, but he is acknowledged as the first created being, wherefrom did Vedic knowledge come to Brahma? Obviously, the Vedas did not come from an ordinary person born in this material world. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, Tenhe Brahma Ridha Ya Adi Kavaye. After the creation, the Supreme Person imparted Vedic knowledge within the heart of Brahma. There was no person in the beginning of the creation other than Brahma, yet he did not compile the Vedas. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Vedas were not compiled by any created being. Vedic knowledge was given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created this material world. This is also accepted by Shankaracharya, although he is not a Vaishnava. It is stated that mercy is one of the qualities of a Buddhist, but mercy is a relative thing. We show our mercy to a subordinate or to one who is suffering more than ourselves. However, if there is a superior person present, the superior person cannot be the object of our mercy. Rather, we are objects for the mercy of the superior person. Therefore, showing compassion and mercy is a relative activity. It is not the absolute truth. Apart from this, we also must know what actual mercy is. To give a sick man something forbidden for him to eat is not mercy. Rather, it is cruelty. Unless we know what mercy really is, we may create an undesirable situation. If we wish to show real mercy, we will preach Krishna consciousness in order to revive the lost consciousness of human beings, the living entity's original consciousness. Since the Buddhist philosophy does not admit the existence of the spirit soul, the so-called mercy of the Buddhists is defective. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The real philosopher, Prabhupada, the pure devotee philosopher. Text 50. The teacher of the Buddhist cult set forth the 9 principles, but Sri Caitanya Mahäprabhu broke them to pieces with his strong logic. 51. All mental speculators and learned scholars were defeated by Sri Caitanya Mahäprabhu, And when the people began to laugh, the Buddhist philosophers felt both shame and fear. Purport. These philosophers were all atheists, for they did not believe in the existence of God. Atheists may be very expert in mental speculation and may be so-called great philosophers, but they can be defeated by a Vaishnava firmly situated in his conviction and God consciousness. Following in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all the preachers engaged in the service of ISKCON should be very expert in putting forward strong arguments and defeating all types of atheists. Text 52. The Buddhists could understand that Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was a Vaishnava, and they returned home very unhappy. Later, however, they began to plot against the Lord. Text 53. Having made their plot, the Buddhists brought a plate of untouchable food before Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and called it Mahäprabhu. Purport. The word apavitra anna refers to food that is unacceptable for a Vaishnava. In other words, a Vaishnava cannot accept any food offered by an Avaishnava in the name of Mahäprabhu. This should be a principle for all Vaishnavas. When asked what is the behavior of a Vaishnava, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, a Vaishnava must avoid the company of an Avaishnava, asat. The word asat refers to an Avaishnava, that is, one who is not a Vaishnava. Asat Sangha Tyag, a Vaishnava Achar. CC Madhya 22, 87. A Vaishnava must be very strict in this respect and should not at all cooperate with an Avaishnava. If an Avaishnava offers food in the name of Mahäprabhu, it should not be accepted. Such food cannot be prasadam, however, because an Avaishnava cannot offer anything to the Lord. Sometimes preachers in the Krishna consciousness movement have to accept food in a home where the householder is an Avaishnava. However, if this food is offered to the deity, it can be taken. Ordinary food cooked by an Avaishnava should not be accepted by a Vaishnava. Even if an Avaishnava cooks food without fault, he cannot offer it to Lord Vishnu, and it cannot be accepted as Mahäprabhu. According to Lord Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita 9.26, Patrang pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya priyachdati tadahang bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Krishna can accept anything offered by his devotee with devotion. An Avaishnava may be a vegetarian and a very clean cook, but because he cannot offer Vishnu the food he cooks, it cannot be accepted as Mahäprabhu. It is better that a Vaishnava abandon such food as untouchable. Text 54. When the contaminated food was offered to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, a very large bird appeared on the spot, picked up the plate in its beak, and flew away. Text 55. Must be one of these seagulls. Translation. Indeed, the untouchable food fell upon the Buddhists, and the large bird dropped the plate on the head of the chief Buddhist teacher. When it fell on his head, it made a big sound. Text 56. The plate was made of metal, and when its edge hit the head of the teacher, it cut him, and the teacher immediately fell to the ground, unconscious. Text 57. When the teacher fell unconscious, his Buddhist disciples cried aloud and ran to the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu for shelter. Text 58. They all prayed to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, addressing him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and saying, "Sir, please excuse our offense, please have mercy upon us, and bring our spiritual master back to life." Text 59. The Lord then replied to the Buddhist disciples, "You should all chant the names of Krishna and Hari very loudly near the ear of your spiritual master." This is fantastic. Text 60. By this method your spiritual master will regain his consciousness. Following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advice, all the Buddhist disciples began to chant the holy name of Krishna congregationally. Prabhupada. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 61. When all the disciples chanted the holy names of Krishna, Rama, and Hari, the Buddhist teacher regained consciousness and immediately began to chant the holy name of Lord Hari. Purport. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that all the Buddhist disciples were actually initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, and when they chanted, they actually became different persons. At that time, they were not Buddhists or atheists, but Vaishnavas. Consequently, they immediately accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order. Their original Krishna consciousness was revived, and they were immediately able to chant Hare Krishna and begin worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu. It is the spiritual master who delivers the disciple from the clutches of Maya by initiating him into the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In this way, a sleeping human being can revive his consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In other words, the spiritual master awakens the sleeping living entity to his original consciousness so that he can worship Lord Vishnu. This is the purpose of Diksha, or initiation. Initiation means receiving the pure knowledge of Krishna consciousness, or spiritual consciousness. One point to note in this regard is that the spiritual master of the Buddhists did not initiate his disciples. Rather, his disciples were initiated by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they in turn were able to initiate their so-called spiritual master. This is the Parampara system. The so-called spiritual master of the Buddhists was actually in the position of a disciple, and after his disciples were initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they acted as his spiritual masters. This was possible only because the disciples of the Buddhist Acharya received the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unless one is favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the disciplic succession, one cannot act as a spiritual master. We should take the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual master of the whole universe, to understand how one becomes a spiritual master and a disciple. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Wonderful, wonderful. Text 62. When the spiritual master of the Buddhists began to chant the holy name of Krishna and submitted to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people who were gathered there were astonished. 63. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Sachi Devi, was then suddenly and playfully disappeared from everyone's sight, and it was impossible for anyone to find him. Text 64. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived at Tirupati in Tirumala, where he saw a four-handed deity. Then he proceeded toward Venkata Hill. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has actually described the chronological order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit. The Tirupati temple is sometimes called Tirupatura. It is situated on the northern side of Arcot in the district of Chandragiri. It is a famous holy place of pilgrimage in pursuance of his name, Venkateshwara, the four-handed Lord Vishnu, the deity of Balaji, with his potencies named Shri and Bhu. It is a famous holy place of pilgrimage in pursuance of his name, Venkateshwara, the four-handed Lord Vishnu, the deity of Balaji, with his potencies named Shri and Bhu, is located on Venkata Hill, about 8 miles from Tirupati. This Venkateshwara deity is in the form of Lord Vishnu, and the place where he is situated is known as Venkata Chetra. There are many temples in southern India, but this Balaji temple is especially opulent. A great fair is held there in the month of Ashwina, September-October. There is a railway station called Tirupati on the Southern Railway. Nimna Tirupati is located in the valley of Venkata Hill. There are several temples there also, among which are those of Govindaraj and Lord Ramachandra. Text 65. Upon arriving at Tirupati, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra. He offered his prayers and obeisances before Ramachandra, the descendant of King Raghu. Text 66. Everywhere Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went, his influence astonished everyone. He next arrived at the temple of Pana Nishinga. The Lord is so merciful. Purport. Pana Nishinga, or Panakal Narasingha, is located in the district of Krishna in the hills known as Mangalagiri, about 7 miles from a city known as Vijayadwad. One must climb 600 steps to reach the temple. It is said that when the Lord is offered a drink with syrup there, he does not take more than half. Within this temple is a conch shell, presented by the late king of Tanjore, and it is said that this shell was used by Lord Krishna himself. During the month of March, a great fair takes place in this temple. Text 67. In great ecstatic love, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances and prayers to Lord Nishinga. The people were astonished to see Lord Chaitanya's influence. 68. Arriving at Shivakanchi, Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the deity of Lord Shiva. By his influence, he converted all the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. Purport. Shivakanchi is also known as Kanchipurnam, or the Benares of southern India. In Shivakanchi, there are hundreds of temples containing symbolic representations of Lord Shiva. And one of these temples, it is said, to be very, very old. Text 69. The Lord then visited a holy place known as Vishnu Kanchi. There he saw Lakshmi Narayana deities, and he offered his respects and many prayers to please them. Purport. Vishnu Kanchi is situated about 5 miles away from Kanchipurnam. It is here that Lord Varadwaraj, another form of Lord Vishnu, resides. There is also a big lake known as Ananta Sarovara. Text 70. When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at Vishnu Kanchi for 2 days, he danced and performed kirtan in ecstasy. When all the people saw him, they were converted into devotees of Lord Krishna. Text 71. After visiting Trimalaya, Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Trikalahasti, There he saw Lord Shiva and offered him all respects and obeisances. Purport. Trikalahasti, or Srikalahasti, is situated about 22 miles east of Tirupati. On its western side is a river known as Suvarnamukhi. The temple of Trikalahasti is located on the southern side of the river. The place is generally known as Sri Kalahasti or Kalahasti and is famous for its temple of Lord Shiva. There he is called Vayulinga Shiva. Text 72. At Pakshitirtha, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Shiva. Then he went to the Vridakola place of pilgrimage. Purport. Pakshitirtha, also called Tirukadi-kundam, is located 9 miles southeast of Chimlipat. It has a 500-foot elevation and is situated in a chain of hills known as Vedagiri or Vedachalam. There is a temple of Lord Shiva there, and the deity is known as Vedagirishwara. Two birds come there daily to receive food from the temple priest, and it is claimed that they have been coming since time immemorial. Text 73. At Vridaloka, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Shweta Varaha, the white boar incarnation. After offering him respects, the Lord visited the temple of Lord Shiva, wherein the deity is dressed with yellow garments. Purport. The temple of the white boar incarnation is situated at Vridaloka, or Sri Mushnam. The temple is made of stone and is located about 1 mile south of an oasis known as Balipitam. There is a deity of the white boar incarnation above whose head Sheshanaga serves as an umbrella. The temple of Lord Shiva mentioned here is situated in Pitambara or Chidambaram. Pitambara or Chidambaram, which lies 26 miles south of Chudalore. The deity of Lord Shiva there is known as Akashalinga. 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 The temple is situated on about 39 acres of land, and all this land is surrounded by a wall and by a road that is about 60 feet wide. Text 74. After visiting the temple of Shyali Bhairavi, a form of goddess Durga, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, went to the bank of the river Kaveri. The bank of the river Kaveri. Purport. The temple of Shyali Bhairavi is located in the Tanjore district, about 48 miles northeast of Tanjore city. There is a very much celebrated temple of Lord Shiva there, and also a very large lake. It is said that once a small boy who was a devotee of Lord Shiva came to that temple, and the goddess Durga, known as Bhairavi, gave him her breast to suck. After visiting this temple, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to the bank of the river Kaveri, Kolirana, via the district Tirunchilapalli, and here we go, South India, Tiruchilapalli. The river, the Kaveri is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.40 as a very pious river. Text 75. The Lord then visited a place known as Gosamaja, where he saw the Lord Shiva's temple. He then arrived at Vedavana, where he saw another deity of Lord Shiva and offered him prayers. Purport. Gosamaja is a place of pilgrimage for the devotees of Lord Shiva. It is very important and is located near Vedavana. Text 76. Seeing the Shiva deity named Amrita Linga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances. Thus, he visited all the temples of Lord Shiva and converted the devotees of Lord Shiva into Vaishnavas. Text 77. At Devastan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Vishnu, and there he talked with the Vaishnavas in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya. These Vaishnavas are known as Sri Vaishnavas. Text 78. At Kumbhakarna-kapala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw a great lake and then the holy place named Shiva-chetra, where a temple of Lord Shiva is located. Purport. Kumbhakarna is the name of the brother of Ravana. At the present moment, the city of Kumbhakarna-kapala is known as Kumbhakonam. It is situated 24 miles northeast of the city of Tanjore. There are 12 temples of Lord Shiva located at Kumbhakonam, as well as 4 Vishnu temples and 1 temple of Lord Brahma. Shiva-chetra, within the city of Tanjore, is situated near a big lake known as Shiva-ganga. At this place is a large temple of Lord Shiva known as Brihatishvara Shiva Mandir. Text 79. After visiting the holy place named Shiva-chetra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashana. After visiting the holy place named Shiva-chetra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at Papanashana, and there he saw the temple of Lord Vishnu. Then he finally reached Sri Ranga-chetra. Purport. There are 2 holy places known as Papanashana. One is located 8 miles southwest of Kumbhakonam, and the other lies near the river Tamraparni in the district of Tirunelveli, 20 miles west of the city of Tirunelveli, Palamakota. Sri Ranga-chetra, Sri Rangam, is a very famous place. It lies in the district of Tiruchirappalli. Now this is Southern Indian pronunciations are very hard. I'm praying for the mercy of Shweta Prabhu in Houston, who was recording me when I actually did the audiobook of this, and he was counseling me about, and he's from South India, and he was counseling me how to say these names. So by his mercy, I'll try to say them as close as I can with my gross American accent. Hare Krishna. May the gods forgive me. Hare Krishna. Sri Ranga-chetra, Sri Rangam, is a very famous place. It lies in the district of Tiruchirappalli, about 50 miles west of Kumbhakonam, and near the city of Tiruchirappalli on an island of the Kaveri River. The Sri Rangam temple is the largest in India, and there are 7 walls and 7 roads surrounding it. There are also 7 roads leading to Sri Rangam. The ancient names of these roads are the road of Dharma, the road of Raja Mahendra, the road of Kulashekar, the road of Alinadana, the road of Tiruvikrama, the Tirubidi road of Madamadi Gaisha, Madamadi Gaisha, Madamadi Gaisha, and the road of Ada Ijwala Idana. Ada Ijwala Idana. The temple was founded before the reign of Dharmavarma, who reigned before Raja Mahendra. Many celebrated kings like Kulashekar and Yamunacharya, Alambandaru, resided in the temple of Sri Rangam. Yamunacharya, Sri Ramanuja, Sudarshanacharya, and others also supervised this temple. The incarnation of the goddess of fortune known as Goda Devi or Sri Andal was one of the 12 Alvars, liberated persons known as Divya Suris. She was married to the deity of Lord Sri Ranganath, and later she entered into the body of the Lord. An incarnation of Karmuka named Tirumanga, also one of the Alvars, acquired some money by stealing and built the fourth boundary wall of Sri Rangam. It is said that in the year 289 of the age of Kali, the Alvar of the name Tondaridipadi was born. Tondaridipadi. Get that again. Tondaridipadi was born. While engaged in devotional service, he fell victim to a prostitute, and Sri Ranganath, seeing his devotee so degraded, sent one of his servants with a golden plate to that prostitute. When the golden plate was discovered missing from the temple, there was a search, and it was found at the prostitute's house. When the devotee saw Ranganath's mercy upon this prostitute, his mistake was rectified. He then prepared the third boundary wall of the Ranganath temple and cultivated a Tulsi garden there. There was also a celebrated disciple of Ramanujacharya's known as Kuresha, Sri Ramapillai. It was the son. Sri Ramapillai was the son of Kuresh, and his son was Bhagavijay Bhatta, whose son was Vedavyas Bhatta or Sri Sudarshanacharya. When Sudarshanacharya was an old man, the Muslims attacked the temple of Ranganath and killed about 1,200 Sri Vaishnavas. At that time, the deity of Ranganath was transferred to the temple of Tirupati in the kingdom of Vijayanagara. The governor of Ginji, Gopanarya, brought Sri Ranganath from the temple of Tirupati to a place known as Singamrama, where the Lord was situated for 3 years. In the year 1293 Shaka, AD 1371, the deity was reinstalled in the Ranganath temple. On the eastern wall of the Ranganath temple is an inscription written by Vedanta Deshika relating how Ranganath was returned to the temple. Text 80. After bathing in the river Kaveri, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw the temple of Ranganath and offered his ardent prayers and obeisances. Thus he felt himself successful. And we'll stop there. It's 8 o'clock. Hare Krishna, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's southern tour of South India, ki jai. The preaching of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, ki jai. His conversion of all of the Avaishnavas of various categories into Vaishnavas in southern India, ki jai. Okay, our trusty assistant, Abhay Das Brahmachari, is waiting with the open mic.
comment. There's a comment from Vrindavaneshwari.
Vrindavaneshwari, Hare Krishna Vrindavaneshwari, thank you for the gift I received just the other day.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, wishing you a blessed and happy Radhastami.
Thank you.
Thank you endlessly for your daily readings. It's the sweetest part of our day.
Well, it's the sweetest part of my day also. So there you have it. Hare Krishna. And pay my affectionate greetings to your husband, Krishna Katha Das Adhikari.
Something from Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Haribo.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for making way for transcendental wisdom to flow to us night after night.
Well, I don't know about me, but Srila Prabhupada is an ocean of transcendental mercy, flood, transcendental mercy, sweetness. Apparently, from what I heard today from the administrator, or the, what's his title? He's the executive director or something of the ISKCON Ministry of Education. He called me today and he mentioned the fact that many devotees are finding out about the YouTube channel, and it seems like more devotees will be going there, and he's going to promote it around the movement. And he also received my last six offerings, and he's researching them to put forward a document to present to the ISKCON world on why we should read Srila Prabhupada books regularly, out loud to each other. So this is a very nice thing that's happened today, and I'm in a jolly mood as a result. Anything we can do, and he was a little bit, anyway, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. He was very happy. He told me that he started reading out loud like we do, and it changed his whole life. He said now he can realize what Krishna consciousness is, and he's happy, and he's become addicted. He can't live without it. And I said, welcome to the club, Hare Krishna. And he said all the anxieties I was feeling for this or that or the other thing, it all just flew away. How nice is that? Prabhupada again and again says, the process is to hear again and again. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's not a research project. It's not an academic project or exercise. The research is already done. All we have to do is accept it and hear it submissively, with affection, and without argument. And by that process itself, by that hearing, the soul is awakened, and we get the Krishna consciousness, remembrance that is already there within us. It isn't something new. It isn't something artificial to put into our brain. It's already there. And it's awakened by the transcendental alarm clock of hearing these books, especially Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, in Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Abhaya and I are daily reading the Bhagavad Gita once or twice now, and it is giving us great solace. Even though we're not in a large temple community with all the festivals and wonderful activities that go on there, but still we are feeling transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna. Just from hearing Prabhupada's books out loud together. It gives me the greatest satisfaction to share this nectar with as many devotees as we can. Cheers.
There's another comment from Rati Manjari. She says, tonight we heard many interesting things. I especially love hearing how Lord Chaitanya takes the trouble of walking through the land of South India with his lotus feet. It's so endearing to hear that he actually walks his talk by establishing Dharma as well as showing us how to become a devotee.
Yes, that was his mission. It's Krishna coming to show how to be a perfect devotee of Krishna. I thought the story about the Buddhist was fascinating. Now, the disciples of the Buddhists, Lord Chaitanya chanted Hare Krishna, told them to chant Hare Krishna, and this way initiated them, and then told them to chant the mantra in the ear of their spiritual master, who had been knocked unconscious by a big plate dropped on his head by a bird when they tried to defile Lord Chaitanya by taking the remnants of impure substances. How important it is what we eat. And then the disciples chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and initiated their own spiritual master. Parampara system works again. Has to come from the right person to the right person to the right person. And then miracles occur. Miracles occur. Hare Krishna. Okay, anything else? We hope that you all have a very wonderful Radhastami tomorrow, hearing and chanting the glories of Srimati Radharani. Actually, we just heard recently, when Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya were talking, some very beautiful descriptions of the form of Srimati Radharani and her activities, and how she's so delightful, pleasing to Lord to Sri Krishna. Might want to visit that reading again tomorrow. Okay, unless there's something else, we'll go now. And I have something to do to prepare a little bit for tomorrow. And you'll be happy to know that all of the ingredients now have arrived. Just yesterday, the computer came and the rest of the foam panels to go inside the the recording booth. And tomorrow, our friend Seb, Bhakta Seb, is going to come, and he's very expert at engineering these kinds of things. And he's going to help us assemble it all, and maybe even take it for a test drive. And the next day, on Thursday, then our dear friend Sundara Rupa, who's a super high consultant in Mac technology, he even is a counselor of the high-end Apple Care tech support people. He's very expert. He's going to set the computer up properly, and let's see what happens. Hare Krishna. Beginning of a new era. The date was finalized finally for my first hip surgery, hip replacement surgery, for the 23rd of September. That's now almost exactly a month away. So things are going on. Time is marching on. We're dancing to its beat. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Whoops.
I don't know when this came up exactly, but Rati Manjari said, would you like to elaborate on this point in relation to her comment?
What point?
I guess how Lord Chaitanya walks his talk and how he establishes Dharma as well as showing us how to become a devotee.
The Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is elaborating fully on this subject. We will just continue to hear it, and it will elaborate on itself. Thank you very much. He said, everywhere he went, wherever people saw him chant and dance, they immediately became fully absorbed in love of God. Fully absorbed means they attained Krishna Prema just by seeing him and hearing him wherever he went. And he repeated that same procedure everywhere he went in South India. And this where he practically converted the whole South India into Vaishnavas. And as it said, these people were like elephants. They were so strong in their beliefs and so strong in their philosophies. Lord Chaitanya was like a lion, just doing this all by himself. He had somebody carrying his water pot, his kopans, in his cloth, but other than that, he was just by himself, chanting and dancing through South India, performing miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle.
Rati also says, it's really nice to hear how your services of compiling Srila Prabhupada's instructions on reading his books are being appreciated.
Yeah, I was really thrilled, actually. I was thrilled. Here I am tucked away in a little out-of-the-way place, Hythe, a small little community, almost like a retirement community in southern England, southeast England. But things are happening. Krishna's everywhere, and he's doing everything. And if we keep hearing and chanting his glories, and relishing being with him, and relishing distributing this nectar to others, anything can happen. And the more we taste this, the more our faith increases, and that faith is actually the seed of love of God. And it's love of God actually, but it becomes uncovered more and more and more. And what increasing faith means is the awakening of Krishna consciousness. And when our faith becomes fixed and we hear in a way that we cannot live without it, then we become a medium through which that taste can be given to others. Hare Krishna. That's how Lord Chaitanya showed us how to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. And all we have to do is that, and we will spread the Krishna consciousness movement. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take any great, I don't know. Anyway, I won't go into the details of that. Hare Krishna. It's simple, but it's profound and effective. This hearing and chanting, Sankirtan. Okay, we'll stop there. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much again and again and again. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. And guess what? Tomorrow's Radhastami. So we'll be here tomorrow night, same time, same station, same place, to hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on that holy day. Hopefully after we've glorified Lord Srimati Radharani during the day. Tomorrow evening we'll hear more about Lord Chaitanya's southern Indian tour, how he spread Krishna consciousness and showed us how to become eligible to taste the highest tastes of Krishna Prema by preaching Krishna consciousness, distributing the holy name and the glories of Sri Krishna and the spiritual world. See you tomorrow night. Hare Krishna.